Hey, and welcome to my show for Friday, October 23rd, 2014. My name is Alex, also known as the Star Trek Girl, and I'm here to talk to you about Star Trek, among other things.
She's a war core on the dance floor. She's on full power, but she always wants more. She's a tripped out, gorgeous Raymond Ford engage. She's a warp drive.
Lots of really interesting news coming out about Star Trek 3. First, from Van City Buzz, it's gonna be filmed in Vancouver! Apparently J.J. Abrams' company Bad Robot moved the film there because of some certain tax incentives or something for the way that they're gonna conduct business, so don't really know what that means. Don't really know if that's a good or bad, politically speaking. I'm really excited because it's gonna bring a lot of Star Trek history, a lot of publicity. Other things that are exciting about that, we're gonna get Star Trek sets built in Vancouver. I don't know if they'll ever be open to the public or turned into a museum or some kind of Star Trek themed thing, but it's nice to know that the Enterprise, or at least the bridge of the Enterprise, is going to be somewhere in Canada, accessible. That's pretty cool. The film's going to be directed by Bob Orci. William Shatner is supposedly going to reprise his role as, who did he play again? Who was that guy? Oh gosh, he was in that movie? Captain Kirk. But he did mention that he wanted it to be on a really specific condition, that being that his character's role was still meaningful. I think that's really broadly defined. I don't really know. I think anytime William Shatner appears within the Star Trek universe, it's obviously meaningful. He's not just there to be like, hey, I'm William Shatner, welcome to Star Trek 3. Unless it's some sort of like weird Jackass intro. But nonetheless, that's been a rumor that's been going on for a really long time, and it's only really been confirmed kind of in the last couple weeks. The release date for this film will be sometime in 2016. I know we have to wait another couple years. It's gonna be forever. I will be a quarter of a century old, probably, when this film comes out. And from one film to another, let's talk about Star Trek Axanar. I'm gonna admit to being a terrible Star Trek fan in the last little while. I haven't actually watched the prelude to Axanar. I do have plans to watch it though in the next couple days. Monday is my birthday. I've had a long-standing tradition of watching Star Trek movies on my birthday, so I will put in Prelude to Axanar at the top of the list along with a couple others. I want to rewatch The Voyage Home because it's one of my favorites and I like crying about whales. Star Trek 4 also, I think, still brings up some really key points, some really important points about society. Earlier this week, there was a mining ship that is a massive, massive vessel. This vessel lost all power across the board due to, we're not really sure yet, sounds like an explosion. The captain had to be airlifted for safety. But this boat was adrift and it was heading towards the west coast of Haida Gwaii. Response time from two of the leading countries in the world, that'd be Canada and the United States. Unfortunately, they couldn't get there in time. Crazy and ridiculous things happen at any moment.
What?
And we need to be prepared for them. Seriously. Had the winds not changed at really the last possible moment that they could, we would have seen some devastation on the west coast of one of the most pristine environments. Definitely something to consider when we're looking at, you know, Star Trek 4. Whales aren't just threatened because people are harpooning them. They're at threat because their habitat is rapidly being polluted quite horrifically. And though this wasn't a tanker, this was a mining vessel, it was carrying mining equipment and probably some chemicals and a full tank of gas. Let's definitely take this as a warning. Let's look at the way that we're going to be transporting things like that and perhaps figure out a way to do it more safely. This, of course, coming from someone with no influence or experience in the industry. But nonetheless, I think that's something that we should all take a look at because it's really hard to buy things that don't come from halfway around the world, and the way in which they get here is not always the best for our environment. So if you can buy local, I've always encouraged this, do what you can to buy local. There are a lot of people who are frustrated about the fact that this was covered by the news. I was not one of them. I think anytime we're risking an environmental disaster quite like that, we should all be made aware, and we should especially be made aware when we're looking at shipping tankers from our west coast to China full of crude, which would have been much more damaging. So just something to keep in mind. I did get really angry over Twitter, and I want to apologize to the people that I lashed out at. It wasn't necessarily you. I did find your comments to be ignorant, and I don't retract what I said about how I think you perceive the world around you, but I don't think getting angry is ever an appropriate solution, so I am sorry that I got angry. There are lots of people who would label this as some sort of eco-hysteria, yada yada yada. It's not. Anytime the environment's in jeopardy, it's something we have to look at seriously now because we only got one planet, they're not making more of them, so we better take care of the one we have. But anyways, coming back to Star Trek 4, love the whales, really excited to watch that one on my birthday, and Prelude to Axanar before. My understanding is that there's been a war between the Federation and the Klingons, which breaks my heart. The production value for Star Trek Axanar is well above what it was supposed to be, thanks to a hell of a, I think it was Kickstarter? Hell of a Kickstarter campaign. So it's good to know that they're going to have some wicked special effects. Some awesome actors, some familiar faces that I think you'll recognize from Star Trek if you haven't seen it already. The slated release date for Star Trek Axanar, the full movie, will be in December of 2015, so we will get a bit of a Star Trek fix before 2016 with Star Trek 3.
Engage.
In exciting Treknology news, Elon Musk, in a recent interview, was talking about how he loved growing up watching Star Trek because of its optimistic look at the future of humanity and science and our integration into this universe in which we live. Elon Musk, of course, is a co-founder of Tesla. He's the current CEO of SpaceX, which is working very, very hard to get humans into space, both scientifically and recreationally, which is sick, because I want to go to space. Don't you want to go to space? I really think that going into space, though it isn't going to be some sort of magical solution for everything, but I do think it will kind of give people some massive and much needed perspective on this one planet that we have. Astronaut Edgar Mitchell from the Apollo 14 mission is famous for saying, "You want to grab a politician by the scruff of a neck and drag him 250,000 miles out just to say, 'Look at that, you son of a bitch.' A view of Earth from space." I'm gonna see it in my lifetime. We're getting really, really close to having a functional tractor beam. Researchers at the Australian National University have developed a hollow laser beam that's able to move tiny little glass spheres, not very far, and not a lot of them, but it is much closer than whatever we've been able to do before. Could you imagine? Could you imagine the practicality of being able to move things that way? I mean, you can power a laser with green energy, which is awesome, and think of all the heavy equipment we might not need anymore required for moving containers onto giant ships that hopefully don't crash into the coast. Even just imagine using that around the house. Like, you know those little claw things that old people have to reach like the top shelf? Imagine if you had a laser beam to do that. You're just like, oh yeah, can you pass me the remote? Totally. That'd be sweet. Although that's not gonna help with the obesity crisis, so maybe keep it for industrial for now, and we'll see where we can get to in the household. To gaming news for a little bit. If anybody is looking for a team on Xbox 360 for Vault of Glass and Destiny, I would really, really love it if you sent me a message. Fire me something here on YouTube or on my Facebook page. Love to get a team together, especially if it was other Star Trek lovers and we could shoot the Vex while talking Star Trek. So let's see if we can do that. That'd be fun. Please be my friend. I'm not that bad. I'm pretty good. I'm decent. I'm pretty good. I'm still not very good in the Crucible though. The Crucible still handed me my ass. Oh, it's like the first days of Halo. It was brutal, but got through it. And now, thank goodness, I am much better. My Star Trek question of the day is a little more intense for maybe some of you engineers or physicists who totally get off on the technical diagrams, which I do too, but I don't understand them at all. So, Star Trek schematics. If you were to design a ship, or if you were to look at an existing ship, what would you change? What would you add? What do you think was practical, impractical? What is your ideal ship design? I will be answering that question myself in my next video, and I will also share some of your answers on the air. Also, don't cheat and just say a bigger holodeck, because I guess you could technically do anything in a holodeck, but you want practicality and actuality. Could you imagine if an entire ship was just a holodeck and like everything was projected? It would just be really... If there was a power outage, it would suck, but you know, you're just sitting on the toilet and suddenly there's a power outage and you're not sitting in anything but your own shit. So, designing a ship that's entirely a hologram inside. Not a good idea. Never mind. Okay, but that is all I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Until then, live long and prosper.